Overland Park CrossFit, welcome to another Fitness Friday video. This week we are going to talk about a member brought up question. This one is something that gets kind of missed in fitness in general. We are going to talk about running. So running is one of those weird kind of movements where you don't really ever get coached on it unless you get into some serious track and field type stuff. Beyond that, it's just kind of like, all right, everybody go outside, shuffle your feet a little bit faster than when you walk, and hopefully good things happen. So we are going to talk about a few things over the course of the next few weeks. This will be a series. I'm not sure how long it's going to go, kind of going to play it by ear as we go, but today we're going to talk about two things. One is being the foot strike, and then the second is going to be how to incorporate some drills in order to better have a better foot strike to decrease some of that pain, that joint pain that we may be getting, as well as making our run more efficient. So talking about that foot strike, there are a couple things at play here. What we're looking for is we're looking for a nice mid-foot strike. So when we hit that foot, I'm going to take my shoe off here and use that. When we hit that foot on the ground, we kind of land in that mid-foot, so that ball of the foot just kind of behind it and hit there, and then we come through. Instead of what is potentially happening is when we hit that heel strike, land on that heel first, roll through into that next step. So I've drawn some stick figures here. Our first one that we're going to look at is this one on the right. It is our heel strike athlete. So when this athlete is hitting the ground, they're coming straight through here. That heel hits first. You'll notice that their knee angle is quite a bit lessened. So what you want to think here is that knee is one of our primary shock absorbers. If we have a straighter leg, we're going to have a stricter force. And all that force from our leg coming straight down into the ground is going to shoot up our leg through our ankle, knee, low back, all of it. Everything is going to take that force. It's going to be much greater. What also happens here is in order to initiate that heel strike, chances are we're reaching a little bit with that foot, so our stride length isn't quite as efficient. And then the second thing, we actually increase the force of the pavement through our body and slows us down. So that heel strike hits, we kind of have this initial but very subtle stoppage point of our momentum before we get into that next step. So going on to the left here, looking at our more correct stick figure, we have a better angle at that knee. We're going to hit with that midfoot first. That's going to increase our shock absorption. Another way to think about all of this entire concept is thinking about the difference between walking and running. So if you notice here on these walking steps, you'll notice that I have heel to toe. I have both feet in contact with the ground at the same time when I strike, and then I carry into a single foot and into that next step. So it is okay to go heel to toe here because I'm going slow, it's controlled, I have balance, I have more points of contact. When we run, we have kind of a jumping phase. So if you're at home right now and or at work or whatever, you have some space, you want to play around a little bit, what I would encourage you to do is a run is more like a jump step. So we only have one foot in contact with the ground at any point in time. We're kind of jumping one step to the next. If you stand up wherever you're at right now and you just start to jump in place, you'll notice that you jump out of that midfoot, that ball of the foot. If I tell you you have to now jump out of your heels, you're really not going to go anywhere. It's much more challenging and going to put a lot more force through your body. So let's take a look at a couple technique tips, some drills that we can do in order to increase that efficiency. Check it out. All right, so this first drill is going to work on increasing our proprioception when it comes to that midfoot strike. So what we're going to do, we're going to find a nice spot on the rig, get a nice little post to stabilize ourselves. My outside leg is going to be my stand leg, so I'm going to stand nice and tall with that leg, and then my inside leg, the one closest to the rig, is going to be my swing leg. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to act like I am running through the ground, kind of like I'm on a treadmill. I'm going to lift that knee to about 90 degrees at the hip joint, and then I'm going to come through and step through. If I have a nice mid-foot strike like so, I'm going to be able to kind of swipe the ground, have a nice contact with that ground. But if I get the heel strike and I drive my heel into the ground, I'm going to stop real hard every single time. It's going to be really hard to pull that heel through the ground. So if we're doing that here under no load, think about what is happening when we're out on that pavement. We're actually running and we're hitting that heel strike. Everything stops. We're hitting real hard. We're not getting that nice brush through the ground. So to do that from the side, just so you guys can see it, I'm coming here, keeping that core nice and tight and dragging through. Again, that heel, whoop, kind of stops. I reach, and you'll notice that my hit point, that contact area on the heel, is way out in front of me. Go back to that drawing, you'll notice that that step is further out, that leg is straighter. That's not what we want. Where we want to contact is right between that stand leg and that rig post, so that we have this nice contact right beneath that hip joint. All right, let's take a look at drill number 2. All right, so drill number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of combine that mid-strike that we just worked on and combine that with not overreaching in that stride length. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up a couple cones. I can use the mats, the lines of the mats for this, but generally like 3 to 4 feet, give or take. What we're going to do is between those 2 cones, or that length of that single mat, I'm going to try and get as many quick steps as I possibly can, and then I'm going to release into a slight little jog, and I'm going to finish out and maybe in the next 10 feet or so. But on this, I should have that nice mid-foot strike as I go, and then I'm going to release into that run. If I hit any of these on the heel, it's going to stop me dead in my tracks. So if we're doing that, honestly, I'll be very impressed that you've figured out a way to do that naturally. But we want to try and keep that strike in the ball of the feet. So what that's going to look like, I'm going to start behind my cone. I'm going to get my arms pumping, and then release out into that 10 feet. Hopefully that 10 feet, those 10 feet, those steps that we take to kind of finish out after we explode through, are all midfoot except for those last few where we're trying to slow ourselves down actively. All right, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. Set up a personal training session if you want. This one's kind of a weird one, but definitely stay tuned for the next 2 or 3 videos when it comes to that running technique. Have a great week, everybody.